So, hello and welcome and good morning from sunny Vienna, Austria. My name is Wolfgang Göbel, and together with me today is Helgi from Fallon, who is my wingman today.
Hello, guys.
I was working as an enterprise architect. I'm working as an enterprise architect since 2006 and so on. In the beginning, it was just a feat. I mean, I was one of the best paid people in the company and had the feeling that now I can architect the enterprise. And it took me some years of experience. And then I came to the conclusion, well, there are other people and there was a merger, and I completely lost any impact on the enterprise. And that was quite a frustrating feeling. And then I got in touch with TOGAF and with all of this, let's say, bloated enterprise architecture methods and tools out there. I was not really happy with that. And for that reason, 6 years ago, I started architectural thinking, which later became intersection group. So Helge and I are here as representatives from intersection group, which is a not-for-profit association. We founded it 6 years ago, 5 years ago, together with Milan Günther, second president. So we are a not-for-profit association with the only purpose to help people create better enterprises. So that's a bit about us. We are quite passionate about making the change that is needed, we believe, to build coherent enterprises, not only from the IT side. So that's our topic. Some administrative stuff. The session will be recorded, and all registrants will get the slides and the videos shortly after the show. Feel free to ask questions, type them to the chat. Helgi will keep an eye on the chat. And so just write them whenever they come up. Maybe we will answer them later, but and at the end, there will be a Q&A session. So I have slides for maybe 30, 40 minutes. Let's see. Let's keep it as interactive as possible. So I hope that we trigger some questions and just ask them. Yeah, that's why we are here. It should be an interactive session. Have I forgotten anything, Helge? No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so today's topic is from cryptic symbols to a shared understanding with EDGY. And for me, this video, I started with Pink Floyd. People who know me know that I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd, so my webinars always start with a Pink Floyd song. And today I could not resist to use this Keep Talking videos, because we and the Intersection Group, we believe that enterprise architecture is a collaborative effort. So we should no longer see architecture, enterprise architecture, design, however you call it, as a top-down thing done by a few. That's not the reality. So there are many, many disciplines involved, process managers, executives. Each have their own interests and their own goals and their own books and their own principles. And there are hundreds of disciplines probably, that shape the enterprise each and every day. So what we need, and that was the vision of EDGY, that's what we are talking about today, is that we need a language to keep talking with each other. I mean, we don't need a language like English, German, or Swedish. Of course, it's a good idea to speak the same language. But when it comes to concepts, and I'm sure you all have experienced the alien encounter, when you enter a room and you meet somebody from the service design community, some executives, and then the IT people, and so they all have their own concepts, their own slangs. Enterprise architects like their capabilities, service designers like their tasks and their customer journeys. And I'm sure that you all have experienced those alien encounters. So why not create a language, a modeling language, that helps people create better enterprise, which is the purpose statement of Intersection Group, by the way, as the first puzzle piece to finally make better enterprises happen. What do we mean by enterprise? I think our definition goes a step further than what people usually think it is. So we're not only talking about legal entities. We are talking about ambitious endeavors of people with a shared ambition. Endeavor of people with a shared ambition. So it's about people in the center, and they want to get something done they are passionate about, hopefully. So they want to strive in the direction of a common mission, purpose, the purpose of this company, the purpose of our association. We help people create better enterprises. and you have a group of people and they strive for this purpose. So that's far away from the legal entity part of understanding of enterprises. That's maybe very important. And we believe that many people in this enterprise must participate in a collaborative enterprise design approach. That means, and they are aliens sometimes, there are various disciplines. That means we must bring something to them that helps to co-design their enterprises. Why are so many awkward enterprises out there? And maybe that's the trigger. We believe there are so many, we call them awkward enterprises, ill-designed enterprises, and I'm sure that you've experienced already many of them. So this example here, that's a bike rental service. I think it was in Paris, and they launched this bike rental service with several stations where you could get a bike and so on, and they failed completely. They had to trash all of their bikes, and all their company creates was a loss, a tremendous loss of money and a lot of waste. So defect bikes, and they just trashed them. And the question is, why did that happen? And what could be the reason? I know in that case, the reason, it could be that the quality of the bikes was too low and they break down all the time. So that's more the engineering part. Yeah, it could be that they place the rental stations on the wrong places. Yeah, it could be that their brand is not strong enough. Maybe they are like Exxon or British Petroleum, and nobody trusts somebody with an identity that is closer to oil and gas production than to bike rental. So it could be that has something to do with the operations, with the processes, with the IT. And in that case, the reason was that they put the stations on the wrong places. Yeah? So then they had problems that there were some uphills and people only went downhills, and then all of the bikes were downhills and they did not have enough capacity to move them uphill again. So it was, from an economical point of view, that did not make sense to do this bike rental service. So the message here is, we believe that enterprises, companies like this car rental service here, can be awkward, can be ill-designed, can be incoherent, if you like this bit bloated word, because those disciplines are not connected well enough. And we believe that you must shape enterprises from three perspectives. You must shape them from the identity, who do we want to be, from an architecture operational point of view, and from an experience point of view. And to have a counter example, yeah, I like to keep it a bit interactive also today. We like to ask you, so now it's your time to write something to the chat. Why do we believe is Amazon so successful? Yeah, we all know Amazon. They've been around for 25 years or so. Everybody buys there. What's the reason? Yeah, so just type it to the chat. Why do you think is Amazon so successful? Somebody typing. Otherwise, I have some answers. Somebody typing. Yeah. Easy to use. Okay.
No one else? Okay, offer products faster.
Mhm. Always
Always
online.
on. Yeah.
Single page. ELC. Daniel, I don't know the ILC cycle. Every process has been optimized. Yes, that's operations. That's architecture. It's easy. That's experience. Easy to understand. Yeah, that's experience. They take care of the people. Okay. Component, innovate, leverage, componentize. Okay, that's the architectural part of it. Yeah, I mean, these are usual answers. So that's a summary of the answers we usually get. And yes, processes. Yeah, many people say, okay, they have well-engineered processes, efficient processes, efficient organizations, effective user experience. It's simple. Yeah, you have this app and you press two buttons and then you buy a car if you want. So that's really impressive. Some people also say they have a clear vision, their identity is clear, their brand is strong, and so on. And this little exercise from a weak company to a strong, successful company, for us, was also an inspiration to create this shared language, because we believe it's necessary to design enterprises from all perspectives. Yeah, so you must have people from the user experience side. You must have people from the IT department. They create their microservice architecture. Amazon is also famous for their scalable Amazon Web Services architecture, for their microservices. So I'm sure they have brilliant IT people. I'm sure they have brilliant warehousing people. And it's the combination between those disciplines, from branding to user experience design to operations to a strong visionary at the top, maybe, that shapes their identity. We all know what Amazon stands for, even if they change their identity a bit. And this example shows the foundation of EDGY of the language. Yeah? What we believe is we should look at enterprises, which are in the center of this Venn diagram. So you imagine the enterprise to be in the white space, and then you should take a flashlight. So that's part of the language already. Yeah? Use the architecture flashlight and highlight the activity maybe, and then you get a process. Then you look at what's going on in the enterprise from an architecture perspective. And in that moment, you look at it and you ask the question, how are we operating and what are we capable of achieving maybe? So that's one lens to look at it. Yeah, Amazon. What are your processes? How is your warehousing working? How is your supply chain working? How is your delivery working with all the the people operating the cars that deliver the products and so on? And then we have the experience facet, and we can look at the same enterprise with the same activities that are going on. Some people are doing stuff from an experience lens. So what does it mean? How does Amazon, for example, feel? So when I take my mobile phone and I open the app, and it takes me 1 second to buy everything, that's pretty impressive. And that's maybe also a reason why I buy at Amazon, because the experience is really nice. It's fluent and it's easy. And they play a role in people's life, in my life. I buy a lot there, to be honest. And that means when we look at Amazon or any other enterprise, we ask the question, what is our role in people's life? That's a different, what we call, facet in EDGY. And the third lens, some people say, okay, that's the most important one. We should start with them. Yeah, start with why. Many of you know Simon Sinek, probably everybody. Start with purpose. Why do we exist? What's the purpose of Amazon? Making money, maybe. I'm not sure. So, who are we? What matters to us? I'm sure they have a mission statement. I'm not sure if I always like their identity. They're not so nice to the employees. I'm not sure what your feeling is when you think about their brand and their identity. But at least it's pretty clear. They make amazing amounts of money by selling stuff. They suppress the little stores a bit, and they're not so kind to the people. That's also part of their identity. They try to hide it. And so what I'm now doing in this discussion is I'm using a green flashlight and I look at Amazon and at the very same activities that are going on at Amazon. And that's a foundation of EDGY. Yeah? These three facets are fundamental. And that's also the reason why the EDGY logo is so colorful. Yeah? So that's an inspiration in game pieces. So think of EDGY as a language, a collaborative language you can use on a large table, and you sit on this table in a room with all of those alien disciplines, and they have their wooden game pieces, colorful wooden game pieces maybe, and they play a game together and they add their pieces, and together we model it. So it's a collaborative modeling language. That's the idea. It's a colorful language. It's a beautiful language because we believe that beauty is what needs to be done, and beauty is what connects people and has the potential to connect people at the end. Yeah, so think of EDGY and the language for a shared understanding like the Rosetta Stone. I think all of you know the Rosetta Stone. That's a very famous ancient stone where scientists found different languages, and the stone translated between those languages. Yeah, so they're very different, and it helped them to decipher hieroglyphs, for example, and other kind of languages. And that's what EDGY wants to be. Yeah, it wants to connect and to help people keep talking with each other, from designers and marketeers and their user stories and their customer obsession, and everything is the customer in the journey. And with strategists and entrepreneurs, executives with their KPIs and their SWOT and their unique selling proposition. We all know the management slang, yeah, profit and return on investment. So that's their language. And the other language, architects and planners. We like to discuss capabilities, business functions, microservices, event-based architecture, and they don't understand us. We know how hard it can be as IT architects to bring across our arguments to executives that live in a completely different world. Yeah, everything is about profit and money and reorganization. And please, IT people, get the IT stuff right. Take care of the IT. We don't understand you, but please make it work and make it cheaper and more agile and so on. So the chasms between those disciplines, facets, viewpoints on the enterprise, they can't be bigger than today. And that leads to a lot of misunderstandings. And that's the reason why that's in our opinion, the reason why we still see so many awkward enterprises, so many ill-designed enterprises that don't really deliver on the promises, like the bike service. So we believe, and that's the mission and the vision of EDGY, that we need a language that connects those disciplines. And what's the foundation of this language? It took us, I think, 2 years or so to find out that there's the simplest possible meta model. Yeah, so I can use this term today. I think there are many enterprise architects in the room. Meta model. Maybe for the very last time I say that's a meta model. When I talk to other people, I call it a language, which is more beautiful and easier to get. So the simplest possible language elements, and with what you can use to describe everything that's going on in and around the enterprise, are only 4. You need 4 elements, not 50 like in Archimate or other languages. Yeah? And those 4, you can't argue about them. Yeah? Everybody knows them. People. Yeah? So on this picture here, you see people, customers, passengers of the train, or this little guy here trying to buy some candy, and his mother maybe, and some workers which are part of a different enterprise, different company, but in this situation they're also part of this railway station, so maybe they maintain something close to the railway station. And then we have a person, the train driver here, that uses an object. So now we have people using object. Yeah, so that the train without doubt is an object. And please, let's argue about what an object is. I mean, in EDGY, we think it's a physical, it can also be an intangible thing, like an application, an app, the Amazon app on my mobile phone, that's an intangible object. So we all know people need objects to perform activities. And there's a lot of activities going on in here. Yeah, this kid buys candy, people drive bikes, people buy some bakery stuff, and finally they board the train and they are moved somewhere else to achieve outcomes. So outcomes is the 4th base element in EDGY, because everybody wants to get something done. Outcomes. Yeah? So this little kid here, he wants to have a nice taste in his mouth. So maybe some sugar. He needs some sugar. That's his intended outcome. And that's it. He's happy because now he has something sweet in his mouth. And maybe the lady here, she wanted to go from A to B to this station here to visit her boyfriend. That's her intended outcome. And the train driver wants to make money by his job. And he has to go to work every day. So his intended outcome maybe is to make money for his family. So every person here has intended outcomes, the individual outcomes. And together, when they form enterprises like the railway company, they try to pursue outcomes together, maybe become the most environmentally friendly railway company in the planet, could be an outcome of an enterprise. So those are the 4 base elements.
I just wanted to add, in this picture, it's one of the aspects of this picture, from my perspective, is to see all the different enterprises you find in this picture and how they actually work together in order to fulfill the journey that any of the people are on to fulfill their tasks. For example, if a family is going on a vacation, Their task is basically to have fun and relax and get away from the everyday life. And then they have a taxi that they take to the railway station, and they arrived a little bit early, so they take their children to the park to entertain them while they're waiting for the train. And then they get a little bit hungry and want to have something to eat, and go to the bakery to get that to eat. And then they go on a train to go on vacation. And this shows us also that we have to think about that there are multiple enterprises that collectively support people in accomplishing their task. Is not only one enterprise. So we have to think about also how does our enterprise not only work to provide our services or products, and what roles do we play in people's life. We also have to think about, okay, what other enterprises around us that play a part in this journey that we also support, and how can we maybe interact better with them. So we can find also by both partners, and we can also find how can we work more together. So in this case, for example, here you have restaurants or services that sell food in the same location as the train, because you know that on this journey people will get hungry. They want to take food on the train when they travel. So it becomes of a synergy that we get when we actually start thinking about the broader picture and not only what we
Yes.
specifically do.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I use this opportunity to answer the two questions. So Lars Tuxen
Mhm.
asked, what is it that is shared in shared understanding, shared ambition? Is it some mental content, something material, something else? I think it's mental content. It's a shared understanding of where we are. And for me, it's always astounding how little enterprises know about what's going on in the enterprise every day. If you know capability mapping, I've not that often seen a capability map everybody agrees on. So they're simple. You just have a picture and you decompose what's going on in the enterprise in your capability map, or process map, or whatever. And usually there is not that one accepted picture of what's going on. So there's no shared understanding what's going on in the enterprise, and that's a pity
and,
at the moment. And also the shared understanding about the future state. Where do we want to go? Usually companies, they have a mission statement that they write it down on the web page. But is it clear enough to align the energy? Is it clear enough to spark the passion of the engineers as well as of the service designer we adopted? So when we talk about shared understanding, we mean a shared understanding of the current state, what's going on. It is a mental concept. It's about information. It's about terminology. Yeah, try to find terms when you model that are as common as possible, and work on terminology. So that's part of the shared understanding. So I think that's what we mean by shared understanding. And yeah, and last again, I also asked, what about norms, rules? Don't we need these as well? Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are usually hidden norms and rules. So that's what culture is about. Yeah, if you go to a company and you work there for a couple of months, there are some rules. Nobody writes them down. So these are the hidden rules, the
I
culture
mean,
rules.
we have explicit and inexplicit rules that we have to,
Yes.
and norms that we have to abide to. Some are explicit; they will be written down. They will be these are the boundaries we have to stick to, and the guardrails you have in the architecture, and etc. etc. And then we have the inexplicit that we have to learn, that aren't written down anywhere. And yes, of course, we will never be able to get away from that. But we can actually model that through the identity in the story, because it's very much about the culture and the identity of the organization and who we are. But it's not always simple to understand it. We need either time in the company or experience, and collaborate with other people to get to understand it. So yeah, absolutely, it's an important factor of the design.
Maybe we touch it when we talk about the identity facet today. Okay, so that's the simplest possible meta model. That's the last time I used this term. People performing activities using and creating objects to achieve outcomes. That's it. And you can model the as is state, everything that's going on in the railway company, and everything that's going on in the ecosystem, people buying stuff, using money to achieve get something done and so on. And that's I would say that's the core of EDGY. Yeah, people are in the very center. People are in the very center. And so that's the white space in the Venn diagram. People performing activities to achieve outcomes using asset. And then we take the flashlights again and ask those questions. How are we operating? So we can look at activities from a process lens, from an operational lens, or we can use the red flashlight and EDGY and look at activities from a customer journey lens, maybe, and so on. And that's exactly what we do with the faceted elements. So we have those three facets and we make it to one enterprise. And that's our trick to get the coherence we think that is needed. So we combine these views in this EDGY lens. And if you want, you can browse it now. You can go to Enterprise Design or scan this barcode or so. It's maybe a good idea to open it on your mobile phone and skim through the pages so that you get a feeling how it's verbalized and written down on this in this Wikipedia like web page. But that's the overview. Yeah. So now we have those 4 base elements at the bottom right. People, outcomes, activity, objects, and the shape of this stencil here, the square, for example, means it's an object. So now I can look, okay, products, brands, organization, these are objects. Assets, so when we look at a company from an architecture perspective, we call objects assets, like IT applications, like data, like machines, like raw material, and so on. So now we have in the architecture facet, when we look at objects, we say, okay, we call it assets. When we look at objects from an experience lens, we call them channels. So these are the touch points, like selling, like a machine, like a vending machine, or the Amazon, if you want, the Amazon app can be seen as a channel that helps some person on his or her journey. And when it comes to identity facet, we call it content and so on. So the idea is to have those base elements and to have one of them in each of the facets, in the blue, in the red, and in the green facet. And maybe even more important are those circular elements, capabilities, tasks, and purposes. So that's what we strive for. So we say, okay, purpose, that's the outcome the company wants to achieve together. So that's part of our identity. That's our purpose. That's our mission. Why are we here, and so on. And we model that in EDGY, and we will have an example in a couple of minutes where we'll dive a bit deeper into the outcome elements. So that's what we together. What is it? What we want as a company? What we want as intersection group, for example, we want to help people create better enterprises, and that aligns all of our energy into a shared purpose, of course. And in order to achieve that, we need certain capabilities, which are the outcomes of our activities, if you want. So we need the capability to give webinars, for example. That could be a capability. It's the outcome of a person, in that case, 2 people, using some assets like this microphone or this software we need use for the webinars. And we want to achieve, we want to get something done to deliver this webinar. So that's the outcome element in the blue facet. And in the red facet, we have tasks. That's what somebody wants to get done with the help of the enterprise, maybe. So a person that wants to move from A to B. So that's the idea how EDGY works. And the magic happens in the intersections. So we have 3 intersections where those facets intersect. And the idea in EDGY is to nudge disciplines that are usually more in the red in the experience facet, like service designers, product designers, and so on. Of course, they run research, quantitative, qualitative research, and we want to nudge them and bring them in what I like to call a negotiation space, facilitate a workshop where they co-design the products with the engineers together. That's not easy. In the IT space, we know how hard it can be if somebody delivers a service design, has a nice idea, but he or she, they don't have any idea about feasibility, viability, to have the data for this app, for this digital product, and so on. So of course it's obvious that these people should work together, and it works in some companies to some degree, but yet we must be aware that the concepts in the architecture facet like Arc42 and Archimate and C4 and UML and relational databases and that there are books and hundreds of tools and languages. It's really a quite isolated discipline. And on the other hand, you have the service designers with their books, jobs to be done, quantitative research, completely different education, design education usually. And with EDGY, what we want to bring to life is that you can navigate through the model and say, okay, yeah, maybe we could
You
start
can
with.
translate between them.
Sorry?
So you can translate between them.
Yes.
So I mean, they do have different languages. They even have the same terms for different things, and different models. And it's currently it's really difficult to take one model from the service designer discipline and go take it over to the architecture discipline and actually translate it over between the models that they use there. EDGY is something that there is the Rosetta Stone that EDGY is, that it can actually help you translate between them. If you integrate them with EDGY, you can use the same elements, you can use the same forms and colors between these tools, allowing you to actually design it together, still using the same tools as you used previously, just using a different language within them.
Exactly. Yeah, and then we have the intersection organization. That's the organizational structure, if you want. Yeah, and what happens today is that those organizational structures are usually structured top down by the manager, by their manager, because I'm in charge, I'm the manager, and now I structure top down the hierarchy, maybe, or how are my teams are structured. Usually, the people structuring organizations, they are not designing organizations. Usually they see only the org chart and they believe the org chart is the architecture of the enterprise. They don't really see processes, dependencies, IT dependencies, or the connection between organization and the product delivery and the channels and so on. So we must be aware that this organizational structuring today is totally separated from the IT structuring, for example. Yeah, right. On the right side, we modularize IT in platforms, sales platform, customer relationship management systems, and so on. So we, at the IT side, we like to modularize, we like to componenticize for reuse reason, loose coupling, and so on. That's the engineering part. And on the other hand, you have the powerful managers, and they can change the organizational structure in a second. And what we want to achieve with EDGY is to connect capabilities, to say, okay, there should be one and only one decomposition of the business, one structure everybody agrees on. That's not here today. And then you should derive the org structure, only the structural part, from the capability model. That's not happening today because managers, yeah, they say, okay, I need to wipe out this org unit. Why? Because I'm the manager. Yeah, so that's really one of the biggest problems we see in enterprises, that the management is totally separated from architecture, loose coupling, modularization. And with this intersection, what we want to have over time is that people design organizations, co-design them, how they structure teams, yeah, by with a sound knowledge about the ongoing processes, with a sound knowledge of the capabilities, and with identity questions. What fits our purpose? What fits our identity? Are we a hierarchical company and such issues? So organization, without doubt, is in the intersection between the softer cultural aspects, new ways of working. That's all important. Yeah, there are many communities out there that work on the soft factors, but also those communities are not aware of architecture and structural aspects like capabilities. And that's a huge, huge problem, we believe. Okay, I can talk about this for 5 hours probably. Yeah, and then we have brand in the intersection between identity and experience. So it's about what we convey about our brand in an enterprise story, like BMW. We want you to have fun driving, and they run their videos and so on. So identity and story is very much about how do we convey the message we want to convey about us, who we are. Yeah, that's the enterprise story. And in the brand, why is it in the intersection with experience? Because if you don't deliver on your promise and people don't experience what you pray on your webpage, so if there's a gap between what you preach and how you behave then your whole brand falls apart, of course. Yeah, and we also see that quite often, that people, that companies have shallow, superficial mission statements, and whenever you get in touch with them, it's not really, it doesn't feel coherent for you. And that's what we want to do with this intersection brand here, to nudge people to co-design brand design driven by identity. Who do we want to be? Get clear about who you want to be and who you are today, and compare it with the experiences you deliver. Okay, so now I have a couple of slides to dive a bit deeper into the outcome elements. And you can also use your mobile phone and go to enterprise.design and and click on the purpose element if you want to learn more. So that's one language element, an outcome element, because it's a circle here. So it's a purpose. And we define it for each element. We have a simple description, only one sentence. Yeah? We think purpose is a reason why an enterprise exists and what people pursue and believe in. So it's emotional, typically. Higher level purposes are emotional. You'll know that from the web pages. And that's what they want to be. Yeah? They want to convey a brand. They want to have an emotional connection to their clients and so on. And in EDGY, we model purposes. So the idea is here to use this element with the rounded edges. So that's the purpose element, the language element in EDGY. And let's assume a railway company has 4 higher level purposes. So they want to revolutionize transportation in Europe, or they want to contribute to people's life. They want to be a pioneer in customer-oriented rail. So those highest level purposes are emotional, but not really tangible enough and measurable enough. So in the purpose element, what we do in EDGY, we have a tree relationship. So it's a hierarchy. At the end, you could have 3 levels of hierarchies of purposes that are traceable to the higher part. So that's how we model it in EDGY. And when you go one level down, you go down one step from the why closer to the how, to something that is measurable. Yeah. How do we want to revolutionize transportation in Europe? We want to utilize nighttime capacity, for example. That's one way to do it, or and so on. So that's the idea of the purposes. And the reason why we model it and not only verbalize it in a piece of text is to make it more explicit and make it relatable and connectable to other EDGY elements, from the blue and to the red facets. That's the idea. So we model purposes. We don't only write purpose statements, and we are not happy with many of the mission vision statements we feel we see on web pages. So what we see today, what we believe, is that enterprises create disconnected mission vision strategy statements that are incoherent with the actual design and behavior. Many companies don't behave in the way the same way what they convey on the web page. And tomorrow, what we want to have is that enterprises tell clear and compelling stories, is an important element in the identity facet, to convey their purpose. Yeah, of course, companies should convey their purpose. We want to know who Amazon is, who IKEA is, because then we know, can we trust them? Can we relate to them? That's an emotional bond between customers and enterprise, maybe. We all love stories, yeah, but these stories must be coherent across all behaviors, across all touch points, and they must be related to architecture. Can we deliver on this promise? And they must be connected to experiences. Do people really perceive us that way? So that's the idea on the purpose element. And in the red facet, in the experience facet, we have tasks, and the task is something a person wants to get done. So in this example, this boy here wants to visit his girlfriend in some other city. So that's the task. It's a need and an intent. So that's really, he wants to get it done. And if our railway company is lucky enough, the guy uses intersection railways, and he buys a ticket and he starts to interact with us using a channel. So he uses an app and has a look at the train schedule and maybe buys a ticket. Then he goes to the station. He buys some candy, maybe. All kinds of activities are part of his journey. And only in some parts of his journey we appear, of course. Yeah? So there are channels like the ticket machine, the mobile app, and the train itself is a channel. It's a physical channel where he enters and he consumes the product and he travels from A to B. But the task is not taking a train. The task is, I want to visit my girlfriend. And that's a very different thing. So task design is very different from capability design. So it's more about research. And if you never worked with task and user experience design, it's sometimes hard for engineers like me to understand the enormous effort they do in their research. What's going on? What are the tasks of people? How can we help them to achieve their tasks? And that's the idea of the task concept in EDGY, the outcome elements. And what you do, after some research, some top task methodology, if you want to learn more, you can Google top task. There's a book, or you can book our next EDGY cohort where we'll talk about it all day long. Task is about grouping of subtasks. So in a railway example, get around, get some inspiration, make first plans. So to choose a preliminary date range. So what you can see here is very different away from your company. I have some ideas, I need some inspirations, maybe, and so on. So a lot is happening every day in people's life. And at a certain point of time, he or she decides to buy a ticket to cover my needs, and to have some comfort. I want to take pets with me. So these are all tasks maybe on the journey. And then in task mapping, top task methodology, you group those tasks into higher level tasks and you prioritize them, always with the goal to understand customer demands. What is it? Of course, the better we understand the tasks of people, the better we can tailor our products in the direction of those customers' tasks and so on. So that's the task concept. So that's an outcome people want to get done with the help of our enterprise. And what we want to change here is make a step away from personas, customer segments, listen deeply, listen deeper than usually. That's also what top job to be done and top task is all about, to get first-hand insights into people, tasks, and experiences. It's not always so easy to have customer personas. So the better you understand the context of the customer, the better you can design your products, of course. So that's the outcome element in the red facet. And finally, in the architecture facet, capabilities. So that's what we need to be able to do by orchestrating people of assets. So think of capabilities as business components, assets like this train here, together with people with the right skill, like the train driver, and they deliver some outputs. So they move the train from A to B. So without doubt, driving a train is a major capability for a railway company. You must have the right person. You need some software. You need the rail. You need the gravel. You need all kind of materials, electricity, and so on. A lot of assets are needed to run a train. And think of capabilities as a component bubble where you have all those assets inside and you have people, and together you want to model a clear output. So I'm sure many of you have seen capability maps already. That's an example for a railway company. It's only an example. In reality, those examples are more complex. So a railway infrastructure management could be a group of capability at the bottom, and we need to do the planning. Where do we need to build new railway infrastructure? We need to build and maintain those infrastructure. And then we need to do some resource management. We need to do logistics. We need to do procurement. We must buy it somewhere. And we need to do procurement for machines and material. Maybe those are different kinds of resource management and so on. And the big challenge here is to get the boundaries right. How do you decompose, right? You have the railway company, and then you break it down in smaller chunks. It's not as easy as it seems. And there is a capability webinar, a little promotion. I think it's in December somewhere, 12th of, I will come to that. If you want to dive deeper into capability maps, we have Jim and Rich from Capable Company, who are, in my opinion, number one worldwide on the topic of capability maps. Then you can learn 1 hour about how to use them for business planning, for resource-based planning and that stuff. It's an amazing concept. I like to call them the center of gravity of architecture, because they connect people and their skill and assets of all kinds in a business component. So it's a prerequisite to have a sound capability map to run an adaptable company. So that's the idea with capabilities. Think of them as business components, people together with assets creating outputs. And that should also be the blueprint for your organizational structures. That's not happening today because executives model their organization, structure their organization into teams, departments, and so on. And currently, only IT people model capabilities. That's a huge missed opportunities. It would be of tremendous value to connect it, and that's what we want to see. Yeah, so currently architecture and capability is limited to few highly specialized and technical roles. We, with Intersection Group, we want to co-design capability by everybody as a collaborative architecture work. So we want to bring architecture in the form of capabilities, processes, and so on to the other side. So now maybe the last slides for the last 5 minutes are about how to use EDGY to connect the dots. So far, I was talking about the concepts and the task capabilities and purposes, but the strength of EDGY is that it connects the dots. So it has relationships in this language. For example, we could say the person wants to visit a loved one. That's a task with the rounded edges. And they want to use a product, the train to burn. So we say the product train to burn serves the task visit a loved one. Yeah, and this person, this guy, uses a certain channel, the next EDGY element, that's squarish. So that's an object in EDGY. The object used using the red flashlight. We look at the experience when this person uses the physical space, when he or she boards the train, for example. That's the channel. And this train to burn, of course, requires the capability drivetrain, without doubt. And in these links is where the magic happens, because now we want to nudge people to the intersection. Product is the intersection between experience and architecture, if you remember correctly. And we want to have a collaborative co-design of this product. Is it feasible? We want to have the engineers in the room together with the service designers to co-create and co-design the product and to call it and give it the same name, for example. And on the right side, we have all the assets needed to drive for the capability drivetrain. So we need the locomotive, we need a wagon, we need an application. For sure, the list would go on and on, but that would be too complicated for this simple example. And here we see how capabilities are the component between train drivers. So these are people with a certain skill. So capability, the team train drivers, they have the capability to drive the train using those assets. So the right part is the operational part. How do we make it work? We need to build the capability drivetrain using those assets, using those teams, and hopefully the product is related to our purpose. So if you create products that are not related to your purposes that you have and maybe that you convey on your web page, then your brand falls apart, of course. So you must be coherent between the products and the experiences those products deliver and the purposes you strive for, and you communicate maybe as a story and so on. So we hope then that the team of train drivers, basically, and it's a group of people, also pursue this purpose, and that the product also helps us to get closer to our purpose. And that's the way EDGY works, right? You relate and you connect those colorful elements across facets and connect dots. There are more ways to do that, and probably next year we will have more content, more publications ready to explain how. And there we will also have a specification of the service blueprint, I guess. Service blueprint is about, it's like a matrix where you relate elements. So what you see here is on top you have the journey of a person. You do some research, planning, booking, then you travel, then it's post-travel, and then what are the channels you use in these journeys? So it's okay, the driving part here is the journey, and then you have the channels, and one layer down you have the intersection. So what are the products we need for those tasks and for those journey elements? That's at the product row. And on the bottom, you have the organization and the capabilities. Which teams do I need? I need the marketing department. Why? Because it's marketing and communications. We need this capability in order to support those tasks. So if you look at the columns here, you see all the elements that are needed in a certain journey and the products and the capabilities needed for a certain journey step. So there are multiple ways to work with EDGY, multiple ways to use EDGY in a diagramming way. One are those more free-form sentences, like here. And the next one are more blueprints like that, so you can have a matrix and relate those elements and make those connections happen. And maybe a more convinced and complex way is the Milky Way Enterprise Map. Maybe some of you have seen it already, and there will be a webinar in November where we'll talk about in more depth. It's about connecting enterprise purposes in the center to capabilities in the middle ring and tasks in the outer sector of this segment of this circular thing here. So in the center you have an enterprise story. You build, plan, operate, learn in the railway company. So you build the railway. So that's the core story of the enterprise. And then you have purposes related to this phase. And on the architecture facet, you place all the capabilities needed for a certain part of the enterprise story and for certain purposes. And on the outer segment, you have the tasks of the people you serve. So it brings elements that are related, the task of a passenger with the capability needed, with the purposes on one picture. The huge strength and where Milky Way wants to go is to have a map, a common geography where we can place the relevant enterprise elements. That's what the Milky Way is all about. I'm sure Annika and Milan can describe it way better than I can do it today, but there will be a webinar. Okay, so that was the content for today. So I have only 2 minutes of little promo touched upon upcoming webinars. That's just who we are. So this first slide is who we are. We are a not-for-profit association, and we run community and events like these webinars. We also have publications, book, and our flagship product is EDGY. So currently we have a language, but over time we will make it an open source platform where people can publish their tool on top of this language. So we are very committed to publications. That's the link to the upcoming webinars. So if you go to intersection group and events, the Milky Way webinar will be December 12th. The capability one will be November 28th and so on. And week after next week, Helge and I will kick up the Enterprise Scan, which is the first tool. So stay tuned. This will be a LinkedIn live session. That's the first tool we are using on top of the language, because we know having a language may be not enough. There should also be some tools, and we will explain the scan then. And November 14th, Bart will be talking about our enterprise design patterns, how to improve your impact to the enterprise. So these are the upcoming webinars. If you want to dive deeper, we highly recommend to take a course. So we have those 4-week online cohort-based course. We have good reviews in this course if you want to really know how to model EDGY. And we promise that we have lots of interesting examples and that you can apply it in your context after that course. So EDGY is not a rocket science. If you're a seasoned business architect or something, then after those courses, you should be able to model EDGY in a sound way. Yeah, and if you want to dive deeper into the specification, just go to enterprise.design. There's EDGY, and also you will find links to tools, stencils, Miro, Draw.io, all kinds of tools. Enterprise.design is the way to do. Okay, Will says, excellent course, highly recommended. Thank you for the promo, Will. We do think so. So I think that's it for today. Thank you for your attention. We have time for questions.
Daniel is asking if we can go back to the purpose slide. Of course we can. Is there a specific question about that slide? I mean, the purpose of today and tomorrow, these are the game changers that we see, that what we can do better today and how we can do it better tomorrow. To have like a clear and compelling story about that really conveys the purpose, and not only the purpose but even the background and the culture and where we're going in the future and what we will achieve. And it's done in a co-creation, collaborative way between multiple people and not just a few people.
Yeah, and we believe that purposes should be co-designed. The way it's done today is that an external consultancy comes in and runs a couple of workshops with top management, maybe middle management, but usually only top management. And they then come up with some mission and purpose statement, and then they put it on the webpage. But that's not really inclusive. So that doesn't really include the people who really know what's going on the floor. So what we think is needed.
Yeah, the question here is, I mean, Anders asked the question, are you saying that purpose is more important than a coherent vision, mission statement? No, absolutely not. A coherent vision, a mission statement is a part of the purpose, is a part of the identity. It's a question of how you frame it. Do you need a vision or mission statement, or do you need a purpose? I'm not sure either one is correct. It's more of a what works for you, but having a vision and having a mission about why you exist, that is what the purpose is all about and what the identity facet is all about. So it's more a question of wording than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, usually a vision mission statement is a paragraph of text or something, and people take good care of verbalizing this text. But if you model it in a hierarchy and in a way that many people in the company must agree, you must be more precise. So the trick here is to model purposes to get more clarity. What do we mean? Yeah, to make it more and more concrete and to make it relatable. So, for example, if you have utilized nighttime capacity, so that's a purpose, then we can discuss which capabilities do we need to build it, which partnerships, and so on. So, modeling purposes helps in being more concrete and connecting to the other edge elements.
Yeah. Another question was, how do you manage the dependency between capabilities, capability map, or only shown as boxes only? You will definitely touch on that better in the webinar about capabilities. But yes, this a map like this does not show the dependencies between the capabilities. Other than, of course, there is a structure. There's a logic to the structure of the map here, with where the pieces are placed. Not as a relationship between them, but more of how they interact with each other, how they align with the organization. But you will go deeper into that in the capability webinar.
Yeah, and we have a flow relationship, and it's allowed to connect and add those arrows. So if you want, you can use your capability map, and I've also already done that. Use a capability map like that and add some arrows. If you add all of the arrows, maybe it will be a bit too messy, the diagram. But in EDGY, it's possible to model these relationships. Usually it's a dependency. We would say it's a flow, because usually it's a flow of the output of the capability A that is needed as an input in capability B. Then it gets closer to a process map, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to think about that also. The capability maps really displays what we are able to do. It does not really display how we do it. So when we start linking the capabilities with arrows and flows, like Wolfgang is saying, we are moving closer to looking at the processes of how we actually realize the capabilities, the higher level capabilities in this case.
Mm-hmm. And the next question is, do you mean that purpose is vision and mission is how? No, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Let me put it that way. A mission usually is, why are we here? So that's very much about purposes. So I would say the purposes, pretty much, if you model them, they are the mission. Yeah, closer. The vision is a state in the future we envision. Yeah, and the vision, I would say, is reflected in a target state EDGY model. So you could also model your vision as a future state, and there's no need to model every detail of this vision. But usually, if you only have a vision statement, I mean, it's a good idea to have one. EDGY helps you to make it more and more concrete. Yeah, from a one sentence or three sentences. If you urge yourself to model it, it makes it more concrete. And then you must be clear how your one paragraph vision is related to purpose elements. Maybe that's a future purpose element, or maybe future capabilities. We want to become the leader in railway, and that's why we need those capabilities. So that's how I would express it. Yeah. So the mission is maybe our current purposes, and the vision is a target state in the EDGY model on a high level. That's how I would put it. Someone is typing, so maybe the last question. We are running out of time.
Okay.
The question. That's thanks on. Okay, so then I think we say thank you. Thank you, Helge, and thank you all for your attention. I hope to see many of you in our upcoming webinars. Don't miss the launch of the Enterprise Scan, October 31st. And stay tuned at intersection group events, or register for our newsletter. Let's stay in touch via community project. I think that's it for today. Thank you all. Thank you, Helge, and
Awesome.
have a nice rest of the working day. Thank you.
Good day.
Bye.